My favorite part of the show, Money, Power, Politics. Global leaders and experts alike came together in Davos last week for the World Economic Forum. I was fortunate enough to be there. And one of the most discussed topics of conversation, artificial intelligence and the automated workforce. And according to the New York Times, quote, many executives wring their hands over the negative consequences that artificial intelligence and automation could have for workers. But in private, they're racing to automate their own workforce to stay ahead of competition with little regard for the impact on workers. Joining me now, New York Times business columnist Kevin Roose. All right, Kevin, I loved your piece because I agree with it wholeheartedly. But here's the issue. As a CEO of a publicly traded company, your job as a fiduciary is to optimize return for shareholders. So to the best of my understanding, that means automation, not do you support your town or displaced workers? And that might be terrible from a social or emotional or fundamental standpoint. But as far as what those CEOs' jobs are, they're doing it. Automation is the future.
Well, it goes back to this sort of question that Henry Ford addressed back in the early days of Ford, which is that if he's not paying his workers, there's no one to buy the cars. And I think that's really where we're headed with automation. If these companies are putting thousands or hundreds of thousands of people out of work through automation, who's going to be left to buy their products?
Yes, but what you're talking about are long-term issues. And if you're the CEO of a company and you have quarterly reports and quarterly returns and analysts banging down your door, they want to know what you're returning today. They're not thinking who's going to buy a car in 7 or 14 years. I mean, I learned last week that when Goldman Sachs first proposed to do their 10,000 women effort, their shareholders said, what, are you kidding me? That's our money. We'll decide what good we want to do. You return to us. So given what the incentives are, and yes, they're perverse, isn't this a situation of hate the game, not the player? The players are these CEOs who are optimizing their businesses. And I'm not saying they're good or bad, but they're doing their jobs.
Well, the sort of language of inevitability was there in Davos. You had CEOs talking about automation like it's just this thing that's going to happen to them, and they have no choice over the matter. They're either going to do it or their competitors are going to do it. And so they're absolutely salivating about the prospect of using AI and machine learning to cut the size of their workforces. I had one consultant tell me that CEOs are now asking him that if they can automate 99% of their workers away, can they do the same amount of work with 1% of the human workers?
Then are they acknowledging whose job is it to serve those workers who lose their jobs, right? Somebody who loses their job in a factory is not about to become a social media consultant. Who's responsible for it?
Well, right now, it seems like no one is responsible for it. I mean, you have...
And we've been saying this for years.
Totally. I mean, and the CEOs talk a big game about what they call reskilling, which is taking people whose jobs become obsolete and teaching them to do something else. But so far, the CEOs are not putting their money where their mouth is on this. Only a handful of companies have any kind of reskilling program.
Even those who are doing it, it's sitting in their corporate social responsibility vertical. It's not sitting in their core business unit. So it's like putting icing on icing on icing on top of the cake that they could then take away.
Absolutely. And I think we need to sort of make it clear to CEOs that this will not be something that they can do invisibly, that there will be real human toll and backlash. And this is why they don't talk about this in public.
There will be real human toll of all those people who lose their jobs, but what will the actual backlash be?
Well, I mean, you can see it kind of starting. I mean, this is not hypothetical. We are already seeing companies displace workers because of automation. And what's really interesting is...
But what's the backlash for the workers?
Well, I think they have options. I mean, some of these are unionized industries. Many of them are not. I mean, I think the mistake we make is thinking of automation as a blue-collar problem in factories. I mean, this is happening in law, in finance. This is happening in healthcare. We now have artificial intelligence algorithms that can diagnose tumors and other abnormalities better than the best doctors, human radiologists.
Yes.
So this is not some hypothetical problem that's going to impact factory workers only. This is going to happen across industries. I mean, I hate to tell you, Stephanie, but in China, they are already using AI news anchors to present the news on their evening news broadcasts. So
Kevin Roose putting me out of work right now. No, Sundar Pichai from Google told me this months ago a radiologist cousin of his would call him on the phone and say, "You're putting me out of business."
They're coming.
Robots, they're coming for us.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.